I love a mystery. All the world loves a good mystery. So here's one, my friends, that will send little shivers up and down your spine. So make yourselves quite comfortable. Presently we'll become a witness to one of the strangest mysteries of my experience. The mystery of the wishing death. The wishing death. Just how right are the Aborigines with their pointing bones when they will their enemies to die? Is there any scientific basis for the singular phenomenon of a man dying simply because somebody else pointed a bit of a kangaroo's bone at him? I saw a man die a few hours after he'd been pointed at with the bone. A white man, a highly educated professional member of this town. His name was Desmond Innes. We belonged to the same club, the Blackfriars. Desmond Innes and George Bascom were sitting at a small table near the window. I could easily hear what they were saying.
Care for another whiskey, Desmond?
No, thanks, old man. Thelma wouldn't like it.
That's what I like about you, Desmond. You're so considerate towards other people's wives.
Well, your wife did invite me to dinner. Never do to go there smelling like a keg of scotch.
You're very fond of Thelma, aren't you, old man?
Fond? It's a masterpiece of understatement. You know perfectly well I'd have married Thelma if you hadn't got in first. Lucky devil.
Do have another whiskey, Desmond. Nothing like drowning one's sorrows at a time like this.
You talked me into it. Waiter, scotch and soda, make it 2.
By the way, old man, did you ever see a thing like this before? Picked it up at a curio shop.
No, I haven't. What the devil's it supposed to be?
It's a pointing bone, used by the Australian Aborigine. Nothing to it. A bit of kangaroo bone and a lock of Aborigine hair.
How do you know?
They gave me this card with it. It says, "This is the pointing bone used by Aborigines in the settlement of tribal disputes and feuds, especially in matters appertaining to the moral code. It is necessary to point the bone in the general direction of the enemy, and the victim usually dies within 4 days."
That is, of course, presuming one is an Aborigine. I'm definitely not an Aborigine, George, so you're just wasting your time pointing that darn thing at me. Besides, I'm not an enemy, am I?
Of course not, old man. Still, it's interesting, don't you think? I sit here like this and point the bone straight at your heart. Let me see. This is Monday. Now, unless you are dead by Friday, I propose to go right back to the shop for a refund of my money.
But please put that thing away, George. You know, I have absolutely no intention of dying for at least another 40 years.
Oh. Sorry, Desmond. Of course you have no intention of dying.
And yet Desmond Innes, the gentleman who had absolutely no intention of dying within the next 40 years, committed suicide less than 8 hours after that conversation took place at the Blackfriars Club. The police found his crushed and mangled body lying on the footpath in Compendium Lane. He'd fallen 200 feet from his apartment in the Compendium building. Now, that's what I call a very interesting coincidence. Oh, did I say coincidence? Hardly. Let's go back to what happened after they left the Blackfriars Club.
Why, George, you're early.
Hello, darling.
Dinner isn't nearly ready yet. Hello, Desmond.
Good evening, Thelma.
Take Desmond into the lounge, George. Give the poor fellow a drink.
No, I've got a better idea, Sally. You and Desmond have a drink while I garage the car.
Well, that's what I call a real bit of inspired thinking, George. What do you say, Thelma?
Well, if you don't mind a burnt dinner, it's okay with me. Come along, Desmond.
I'll only be 5 minutes.
Be as long as you like, old man. We won't mind. Will we, Thelma?
Desmond, it'll have to stop.
Stop? Why, Thelly, that's absurd. It just can't stop. Can I stop loving you just like that? Can you stop loving me?
It's gradually driving George out of his mind. Can't you see what's happening to him?
Then why does he constantly invite me over here to dinner?
At least he knows where we are and what we're doing. I think he gets some kind of malicious pleasure in having you here, watching both of us.
It's a form of masochism, self-torture. I didn't realize that George was like that.
You've come to be an obsession with him. He can't think straight anymore. It's very serious, Desmond.
Listen, there's only one thing to do. You must come away with me before it's too late.
You know perfectly well I won't do that, Desmond. You seem to forget I have 2 children.
And you seem to forget that we're in love with each other. If George can't take it, that's too bad for George.
George shouldn't have to take it, and he won't take it. After tonight, Desmond, I'll never see you again. It's the only sensible way.
You mean we're finished?
It was a mistake ever to start. Here, have a drink, and for heaven's sake, try and raise a smile.
It's important that I should have you, Thelma. To me, that's the most important thing of all.
You're very selfish.
Is that your final decision? I mean about us?
There's no other way, Desmond. If we don't break it up now, I'm afraid of what might happen. Really afraid, Desmond.
Now, what in the world have you got to be afraid of, Thelma?
Oh, why, George, you startled me.
Well, you don't have to creep in, old man, like a Secret Service agent or something. Thelma was just saying she was afraid the dinner would be spoiled.
I see.
Well, don't you believe me?
Of course I do, Desmond. Let's have dinner and forget all about it. What you say?
After dinner, the 3 people returned to the lounge for a few more drinks and a little, shall we say, double talk.
George, just why did you point that bone at Desmond?
Oh, by the way, old man, have you got that thing with you?
Yes, it's in my pocket, I think. No. I could have sworn I put it in my pocket. Must have left it at the club. Doesn't matter.
Oh, never mind. George, after tonight, I won't be seeing you for a while. I'm going away.
On account of his health.
Oh, that's jolly bad luck, old man. Didn't know you were in bad health. Perhaps you drink too much.
Perhaps I have been drinking a little too much. I have a special reason for it. It's not every day that one is condemned to death.
You mean the pointing burn?
Of course. Certain death within 4 days, you said. Yeah, you're a peculiar bird, George. Who would have suspected that you were a killer?
Don't say such stupid things, Desmond.
I mean it. Now, if I should happen to die, say, tonight, it'd be all your fault, old man. You know, you simply can't go around pointing bones at people. It's not done.
You sound suspiciously like a man who is about to commit suicide, Desmond. Doesn't he, Thelma?
Maybe he's just a little tired.
Come along, Desmond. I'll drive you home.
That's awfully decent of you, George. Goodbye, Thelma. And thanks for everything.
Good night, Desmond. And good luck.
They found Desmond Innes's body in the early hours. There was an inquest, of course. George and Thelma both testified that the deceased had been drinking rather heavily and that he had fallen into a condition bordering on melancholy. Nothing was said about the pointing bone. The official verdict was that Desmond Innes had taken his own life whilst of unsound mind. And there the matter ended. Almost. However, a few days later, I was sitting at my favourite table in the Blackfriars when George himself strolled in. I spoke to him. Oh, excuse me, aren't you George Bascom?
Yes,
I thought so. Haven't been a member very long.
that's right.
Sit down, have a drink. The waiter, 2 beers. That all right for him?
Thanks.
By the way, Bascom, have you ever seen a thing like this before?
Don't think so. What is it?
A pointing bone. The Aborigines use it, you know. They point it, and then you go away and sort of die. Interesting, don't you think?
Quite. What'll they think of next? By the way, where did you get it?
Oh, remember a cove named Innes? Threw himself from the Compendium building or something of the sort.
I know. I drove him home that night. He was drunk.
I inspected the body. I found this in his hand. Strange, don't you think?
Quite. I knew nothing about that, of course.
Excepting that I saw you showing this thing to Innes here in the club the day he died. In your evidence at the inquiry, you said you didn't go up to his apartment with him.
That's right.
Well, if that were so, how did Innes manage to get possession of this curiosity?
I must have given it to him.
But you just said you hadn't seen it before. Do you think something might have taken place in his apartment? A struggle, perhaps?
I refuse to discuss it any further.
Oh, you don't have to. With me, Bascom. But 2 police officers have just entered the club. Look, they're over there by the door. I think they're beckoning to you. Oh. Non-members, too. What is this club coming to? Of course, the strange part of it was that I'd made a successful shot in the dark. I hadn't found the pointing bone in the deceased's hand at all, but on the table at the club where George Bascom had inadvertently left it that afternoon. Bascom broke down under police examination and confessed that he'd thrown Innes from the 9th floor of the Compendium building. Thelma Bascom took advantage of her legal position and refused to testify against her husband. Ladies and gentlemen, can I interest you in a perfectly good pointing bone? It has a very good history, having already killed one unfortunate victim within the short space of 8 hours. Oh, on second thoughts, perhaps I'll lock it away in the old oak chest alongside my African assegai and the skull of a Borneo ape man. I like to preserve these interesting mementos, you know, because... Yes, you've guessed it. I love a mystery.
If you enjoyed the mystery story you've just heard, you'll like this one, too. Mallard now presents The Wine and Spirit Mystery. The Fine Wine and Food Lovers Society is holding its monthly luncheon. In accordance with custom, a guest, who is an acknowledged connoisseur of wines, is called upon to pass comment when the coffee and liqueur stage has been reached.
Mr. President, I would like first of all to congratulate the Society's cellar master on his faultless appreciation of vintage and his good fortune in being able to procure wines of such mature age. It's clearly apparent to any connoisseur that the wines served today were laid down at least in 1921 or 22.
Order!
Who is that laughing?
Mr. Vintner, our cellar master. I just can't understand it. Gentlemen!
Mr. President, I desire to apologize to our guest speaker, but my sense of humor overcame my manners. The wines provided today were laid down less than 12 months ago.
Oh, rot.
It's impossible. Gentlemen, I repeat what I have just said. The wines tasted today, wines with all the characteristics and qualities of age, were in fact laid down less than 12 months ago. Yet I will defy any connoisseur to detect a difference between those wines and others that have been cellared for 30 years or so. Mr. President, this is a matter entirely beyond my comprehension. It's a very deep mystery.
A mystery indeed. How could an aging process, which normally took years, be accomplished in a matter of months? For the solution of the mystery, we must look to the electronic research scientists of the world-famous Mallard organization. The answer lies in ultrasonics. Sound waves of such high frequency that they cause incredible agitation in liquids. Mallard has perfected ultrasonic generators which perform a host of extraordinary functions, from the acceleration of chemical reactions to the mixing of metals, from drilling glass to decreasing the virulence of germs or emulsifying oil and water. The same painstaking research into electronics which made possible the ultrasonic generator lies behind world-famous Mallard radio receivers and Mallard valves. In radio, as in other electronic application, the best is Mallard.